So you can program just about any radio out there using a free piece of software called CHIRP. And today we're going to program this little Baofeng mini radio using the software. I'm going to show you step by step how to do this, including some tips and tricks on how to find frequencies in your area to program into your radio. So what I like to do to find the software is go over to Google and just search for CHIRP radio software. There's also a link below in the description too if you want to save a little bit of time. But basically here it is, chirpmyradio.com. If we click on this, this will take us here to the CHIRP page. Now on this page is a list of supported radio models. Now they're always updating the radios that are supported. There's a system where you can log a ticket, or there's tickets that are being logged to actually incorporate different radios into the software. There's lots and lots of radios that are available in here. Now you'll notice that it's not just handheld radios. For instance, the ICOM IC7300 is supported. The 9700 is supported. They're base station radios. So just go through here. You might be surprised to see that your radio is supported. Now, if I just do a quick search here for the UV5R Mini, I can see here that it is supported here in the list. So we're good to go with that supported radio. So if we scroll back to the top, there is a button here that says Get It. So if we actually click on that, now it is supported with Linux, Mac, and Windows as well. So that's handy to know. Scrolling down, now there are two downloads here. There is a CHIRP Next and a CHIRP Legacy. I'd recommend that you download the CHIRP Next because it's got the latest features and fixes in this particular version. So we'll go ahead and click the download button here. And this takes us to this page where we've got a list of installers here. Now, obviously in green here, it's detected that I am running Windows, but you can download the Mac OS or you can download the Linux versions as well. So I'm going to go download this version here. This is the release, which is released just a couple of days ago on the 28th of the 11th, 2025. Go ahead, download, save this to a location and run it. So I've just run this and it is a simple next install. So we just go next, we accept the terms here, install it to the default destination here on Windows. That goes through, it'll do its thing, and then once we're finished, we're ready to launch the software. It's already ticked, we can run CHIRP. And you can see here that we can either get started by opening a file from the file menu up here, or we can download directly from the radio. So what we're going to do is I'm going to connect now the Baofeng Mini up to the computer. Now, there is a couple of things with this. This radio has a K connector here on the side, so it does support the K connector USB cables for being able to program. Now, if you don't have one of these or you're not sure what cable to use, I'll leave a link below to a couple of cables that you can purchase that work. Have a look for the FTDI cables. They're the most reliable ones, but these ones are reasonably cheap. Also, the all-in-one cable, the AIOC, that's also a very versatile cable that you can use, or versatile board that you can use for other applications later on other than just programming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this in via the K connector into the side of the radio and make sure that it's seated in nice. Sometimes they don't go all the way in. Not going to turn on the radio just yet. We're going to go back over to the PC, and the one thing that we need to do is if we go up to radio up here and download from radio, you'll notice that there are a couple of ports here that we can select. Now, the confusing thing is which port do you actually select, especially if you've got multiple devices here, you're not quite sure which one to choose. Now, there are a couple of things here. I've only got two, so I know that one is COM port 1 and the other one is COM port 3. So what I can do is I can plug in my cable, my USB cable, which I've just done there, and I can click download from radio again. And you'll see here that a new one has popped up, COM port 5. That's just about the easiest way to figure out which one you need to select. Now, there is another way that you can also do this if you do have multiple COM ports. If you go to Device Manager, you search for Device Manager, this will bring up a window that looks like this. If you go down here to the list of ports under COM and LPT, you'll see that we've got COM port 1, COM port 3, COM port 5. If I actually unplug that programming cable now, you'll see that COM port 5 has disappeared. So if I just plug it back in again, we've got COM port 5 reappear. So we're pretty confident that that is the cable that we need to use. So we're going to go back over to here and we're going to select COM port 5 here in CHIRP. Now, vendor. Obviously, there's all these different vendors. And there is a lot that are in here. So we're going to select Baofeng, and I'm going to search for the UV5R Mini. Now, this says here that some radios will give you this warning that says that it is a beta version and that you need to save your copy of your first successful download. Do you accept the risk? So it's best to just read through this and just make sure that you've got everything, that you save everything when you do it. We're just going to click yes here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the radio on. So you can see here the radio is powered up, and I'm going to just hit OK. Now what it'll do is it will tell you these instructions. Follow these instructions to download your info. Turn off your radio, connect your interface cable, which we've done, turn on your radio, which we've done, and now do the download of your radio data. So we're going to hit OK, and you can see there that it is cloning from the radio, and the radio is showing program at the moment with the flashing LED as we go along, and there we go. There is all of our frequencies that we currently have programmed into this radio. So what we can do is we can actually turn the radio off now, because now that we've got this saved in here in the CHIRP program. Now it's always best to go up to File and then go Save As. So what we could do is we could save this original file. So if we make any changes or we make any mistakes, we can always revert back to them if we need to. So we can go here, Save As. I'm just going to save this somewhere. I'm just going to save this here as Baofeng UV5R Mini. Hit save, and there we go. We're good to go. Now, the good thing with CHIRP is you can actually go and program each channel, which we'll go through here in a minute. But you can select settings, and you can go in here and change all of the settings in your particular radio. So rather than going through the menus and changing it all, you can simply go here and change it. So we've got a couple of things here with the Baofeng UV5R Mini. I can change the power on display to either the logo or the battery voltage, the squelch, timeout timer. I can turn the Roger beep on and off. Scan modes, I can change all that. So there's all sorts of different cool things in here. I can change the buttons here on the side, what they do. So the short key 1 on the side, FM radio, I can change that to the flashlight or something else if I want. So there's all sorts of things in here. There's also a couple of other settings here on the VFOs. So if you want to change those, you can see I've got 14652 in there at the moment. And also some DTMF encode settings, which probably don't really mean much, or we don't need to adjust anything there. So that's pretty cool. A lot easier than doing it on the keypad on the radio. So now just let's go back to memories here for a second. Now I've got my local repeater channel programmed in here, and I've also got a whole bunch of other random frequencies. Now I don't really want any of these, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the top one here and then hold down the Shift key, and I'm going to go and select all of those 1 through to 21. So I'm going to right click now, and I'm just going to go delete, and I'm going to delete 21 memories because we want to start fresh. Okay, so now there's a couple of things that we can do to program in memories. The first thing you can obviously do is you can go through and you can manually put through all of this data yourself. So here simply we can put in, say, 146,500, which is the Australian call frequency on 2 meters. I can go here into the name and I can call this 2 meter call. I can change the tone or the mode. So if we're using CTCSS or we're using another tone mode, we can go and select that if we want. So let's just go and demonstrate this. This would be used for repeaters and things, not necessarily for simplex. But you can go in here and you can select all of the tones here from the drop-down menu here. Now, if you also have tone squelch selected here, this will allow you to select the tone squelch option here for that particular tone as well. The next thing that you can do is we can go along here to duplex. Now there's a couple of duplex options here. There is no duplex at all, which means basically simplex. It's going to transmit and receive on 146,500. We've got minus, we've got plus, we've got split, we've got off. Now if we select off, that means that it will only receive. It's not going to transmit at all. So that's useful for if you want receive only frequencies. You can pop those in here and we'll demonstrate some of those in a second. We can go and demonstrate the duplex options for repeaters in a second as well, because there's a lot easier way to import repeaters here into CHIRP rather than putting them in manually. we want to select our mode. So we can select here, we've got FM, we've got narrow FM, and we've got AM available on this radio. Now we've got skip, so this is for scan if we want this particular frequency to be skipped over when it's scanning. This is handy if you've got frequencies that are constantly chattering all the time, but you don't necessarily want to listen to them on scan as well. So you can select S there, which will mean that it will skip. And we can select a default power level. So we've got high or low here, and you can also put in a comment as well. That's all well and good. We can easily put all of that in manually, and we can put in all of our repeaters in manually if we really want to. But there's an easier way that we can do this. If you actually go up to radio here at the top and you go to query source, there's a number of different sources that we can actually pull frequencies from. Now you'll notice that we've got radioreference.com, which is a sort of an all-in-one website which has a whole bunch of different frequencies, not just amateur frequencies that you might find interesting. I believe Radio Reference requires a login or a subscription. So if you've got one for that website, then definitely check it out. But what we're going to use is we're going to use Repeater Book here. So Repeater Book has a lot of information on it, which we can use. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to bring up here a query. So what we could do is we can select all of the, by location, we can select here what is nearby in our area. So obviously you can drop down here and select your country. So I'm just going to do a quick query here for my country here in Australia. Now, depending on what country you're in, sometimes it will blank out certain things. So like here, the amateur service is blanked out, the state's blanked out, but you can put in a latitude and longitude. You can also put in a distance and also a filter. So what we're going to do is I'm not going to bother here with the latitude and longitude. We can do this if we want to. I'm not going to bother with the distance because I just want to put in here all of the repeaters that have Hobart in them, which is my local city here. Now, I want to tick only certain bands, so I only want the 2 meter and 70 centimeter band because the Baofeng radio that I've got only supports 2 meters and 70 centimeters. I'm going to hit OK. Only certain modes, I only want the FM repeaters because there's only FM in this radio. I'm going to hit OK. And then pretty much we can leave the rest because here in Australia we only use open repeaters. So we're going to hit OK. And what this is going to do is it's going to download a list of repeaters here. Now you can see that it's actually opened up in a different tab up in the top here, Repeater Book. And we've downloaded 3 repeaters in from Repeater Book. Now I know that there's actually more repeaters in my local area, so you might need to do a bit more research and have a look at some other directories if it looks like you're only getting small amounts of results. Repeater Book is reliant on the community to update it with details, so some repeaters may not be in there. So just make sure that if you have some information that you go in there and you do that. So I know here that this repeater here on Mount Wellington, this is my main repeater. I can select that, and I'm just going to select this second one here as well. And I'm going to right click and click copy, and then I'm going to go back over to the Baofeng image file here, and I'm just going to select the second row here, and I'm just going to right click and click paste. And then there we go. Now that has pasted in that repeater or all those repeater details. Now you can see that it's obviously got some comments and it's pulled all this in. What I can actually do is I know the call sign of this repeater, so I can go in and I can change the name of it. So VK7RHT, that's what's going to actually appear on my radio. And then I can also add a comment in here if I want to. I can change it if I need to. Now obviously, there's very limited details in there. So what I can do is I can do another query. And for instance, I know that a few years ago, I visited the United States and I visited California and I visited San Francisco. And I wanted to know what repeaters were actually in the area. So I'd actually come in here. And this is great for if you're traveling around or you're going to a location, you're not sure what's actually in the area. So the easiest way to do that is just open up your browser again and go to Google Maps. And what we can do is we can now go to a location. So let's just scroll back out. And I'm going to select here San Francisco. Let's just go here right in the middle. Right click. And you'll see here that we've got a latitude and longitude. I'm just going to click on that to copy it. And then go back here to Repeater Book. Now, I'm going to put in here, I'm going to paste this in, Control V. I'm going to paste this in. And I'm going to just take out this portion here because that is our latitude, just 3 digits or so after the dot. And longitude, I'm going to now do the same. I'm going to include the minus and 3 digits here, so 122,419. So this is roughly that location, and now I'm going to set a distance. Now this is in kilometers. You'll see there, limit results this distance in kilometers. Now I was using a handheld at the time. If I was visiting again, I'd probably expect maybe 20 to, let's go 30 kilometers. What's that, about 15, 20 miles, something like that. I'm going to hit OK. And there we go. It's now pulled in all of the repeaters from that particular location, that rate, from that radius of that location, within about 20 or 30 kilometers there. So I've got quite a lot here that I can see. There's actually quite a few that are doubled up. So there's 3 here, Grizzly Peak. You can see there, one on, or a couple there on 2 meters, one here on 70 centimeters. I'm trying to think of the repeater that I actually used when I was there. But you can go through here and you can select the ones that you want. Say I'm going to select that one. I know I'm going to be there. I know I'm going to be there. And maybe there. So all I did was I just held down Control on my keyboard and just clicked here, whichever ones I wanted. And then I can just right click and I can go copy. I can go back in here. I can paste that in, and all of those repeaters are now ready to program up. So very, very easy. Certainly saves you doing it manually. Now, it's not just repeaters that you can also look up. You can go to File, and we can go to Open Stock Config. Now here is a list of directories here for the most sort of common frequencies. Now a lot of this isn't amateur radio frequencies, but they may still come in handy. So for instance here, I've got the Australia, New Zealand UHF Citizen Band. If I actually click on that, it'll open up, and you can see here that I've got every single CB frequency here on UHF, all 80 channels. So I can actually go in here and I can select from channel 1, and I can scroll down to channel 80, and I can hold down Shift and I can copy again that into, let's just create a couple of lines there, and I can copy in all of the CB channels. And it's already got all of the names in here. It's got the shifts here also. So that's one thing that we didn't cover before. Once we put in the repeaters in here, it'll usually populate here the duplex shift and the offset that we need for accessing the repeater. And everything is just about good to go. It makes things a whole heap easier and a lot quicker. Programming your radio is just one of the first steps that you take towards getting on the air with amateur radio. Now, you've probably just passed your license and you're thinking, well, what do I do now, or where do I go to from here? I'm not quite sure of the jargon. I'm not sure of how to make a contact, or even just some simple things like, how do I set up my radio? Well, all of these are answered in the course that I've developed called Ham Radio in 30 Days, 0 to Hero. This is a 4-week practical course that helps you go from what do I do now to confidently getting you on the air in just 30 days. Now, this has been built from my mistakes and also from the last 20 years plus of me being an amateur radio operator, and it's the course that I wish that I had when I began. So if you want more information, have a look below in the description. There is a link to the course details. Now, you can also go into a frequency by right-clicking and going Properties or a channel, and this will give you some extra overview of it. So you can see here that my comment was sort of a bit cut off here. So what I can actually do is I can go in here and I can see it more in full here in this particular window. So there's also some extra bits in here. This will vary depending on what radio you've got, but it's very easy to go in here and program this sort of stuff up. Now, the other things that you can also get from this stock config, you can get some calling frequencies, marine frequencies. I know in the US that the NOAA frequencies, the weather alerts, are very popular. If you actually click on this, and we can then copy these 10 channels, these 10 channels, and copy those in as well, have those programmed up. Now, obviously, when we've copied these NOAA frequencies in, we want to make sure that we don't transmit on them. So you'll see here that duplex is not set to off. So we need to do that so that we don't TX on a NOAA channel, because that would be bad. So what you can do is, rather than going through and selecting each of these, you can actually go through, select all of the channels, and then what we can do is we can right click and go Properties, and we can select the duplex function here to off. Now what that's going to do is we hit OK, that's going to select them all to off. So that means that we don't need to go through and do them all individually. Now that's the same here with what I mentioned to do with the scanning. I don't want to go through and I don't want to scan all of these CB repeater channels. So what I can do is I can go here and I can select all of these CB channels here from channel 18 through to 98. I can right click, I can go properties, I can then go to skip and I can select S, and they will all be skipped. It looks like it didn't select all of those, so what we do is just double check. We can go through here and make sure that they are all skipped. Go back in, properties, we select skip, or we toggle on and then off, select skip, and then now all of those channels are skipped. Now you can mix and match with these, so you don't need to select them all in a row like that. We can go in here and we can select maybe these couple here, right click, properties, we can then skip, and we can also say we want to make these receive only, and then that will then skip them all and make them all receive only as well. So it's really easy once you start working with these to be able to include what you want. Now in addition, under radio you can select band plan. This is where you would select your area, so I'm obviously going to go Australian band plan and hit OK. This will just help to aid you when you go and making edits and changing things and adding offsets and all this sort of thing. It might make the defaults change, so just make sure that you do that too. So now that we're ready, so what we can do is we can now save this, and I recommend again to save this now as a new file. So we'd go in here and click save as, and what we'll do is we'll go and save it into the same location, but we'll just put new here at the end and just hit save so that we're ready to go and program this in. So now what we need to do is we need to go to upload to radio, and we can select here the COM port again, which is already selected. We can hit OK. It's going to tell you again, turn your radio off, connect your interface cable, which we already have done. Turn on the radio. We can hit OK once the radio fires up, and it's going to now clone that to the radio and program it straight in. Okay, that has now finished and it is rebooting. And now if I go, as you can see here, I am in VFO mode. If I go into memory mode, there we go. We've got N01PC, which is channel 6, Twin Peaks, N6 CDF, Gagebrook, RHT. There we go. There's all of our channel names. As we scroll up and down, we can select whatever channels we want. There's all of our CB channels. And if we actually go now up to, say, one of the channels that we're not allowed to transmit on, for instance, one of the NOAA channels, and we try to transmit, it just doesn't transmit. The radio just beeps. So obviously that was really easy to program this radio, the Baofeng UV5R Mini. There is a link below in the description if you want to learn more about this radio, or if you want to view a full review on it, then I did a video for it right over here.